on the 5 key transparency requests that have been the focus of all of the Republican members' concerns about this nomination process. And again, from the very beginning, we've made it very, very clear our key focus has been these 5 key transparency requests, and it's for good reason. I think it's very clear that this EPA has had a pretty dismal transparency record with email abuses completely contrary to federal law and practice, with a FOIA policy that regularly frustrates public access to information, doesn't properly allow it, with a lack of transparency in terms of producing emails, and when they're produced, they're extremely heavily redacted, with unresponsiveness in terms of requests for the underlying research data behind crucial EPA regulations, including those Gina McCarthy has been in charge of, with completely inadequate, in some cases laughable, economic analysis that don't begin to account for full costs or benefits, and with often secretive sue and settle agreements behind closed door which advance an environmental left agenda without proper openness, transparency, and input. So that's been our focus from the beginning. The good news is, as of last night, there's been meaningful progress in terms of our 5 key transparency requests. And that's why we're here today, to recognize that progress and to urge additional progress. In response to the progress made as of last night, I'm sending a letter today to the acting administrator, Bob Perciasepe, and to Gina McCarthy. And I just want to read relevant parts of the letter. Dear Acting Administrator Perciasepe and Assistant Administrator McCarthy, thank you for the letter of yesterday committing to significant steps forward with regard to all 5 of the transparency requests of the Senate EPW Committee Republicans. Because these steps forward are significant, we want to thank you and acknowledge progress, including by moving forward with the committee markup of Gina's nomination. Because these steps forward are limited and do not include everything required under the law, we want to request additional progress as outlined below. Should major additional progress be made in all of the 5 categories over the next 2 weeks, I will strongly support handling the McCarthy nomination on the Senate floor without a cloture vote or any 60-vote threshold. Should all of our requests in the 5 categories be granted, I will support the McCarthy nomination. And then in this letter, I outline each of these 5 categories, where we are and where we would like to go. And then I conclude, I believe the above outlines a very productive path forward. I hope you concur by agreeing to travel down it. Sincerely, David Vitter. So I think that very much incorporates where we are on our side, particularly where I'm coming from, and where I hope we go in terms of a productive path forward. And with that, Madam Chairman, I'd like consent to make this letter part of the record. Thank you.
That objection. Let me just simply say we're going to move to a vote. We welcome all of our colleagues, and I have to say, my colleague from New Jersey, it is a joyful experience to see your beautiful face here. All of us feel that way. Believe me, all of us do. I do want to respond just briefly, and we're going to go to a vote, because I don't want what Senator Vitter said to go unanswered. I have never seen a nomination handled this way. You know, I have seen nominees come up that I couldn't agree with. I didn't agree with the agency, the way it was run, or anything else. But I never took it out on a nominee who is yet to have an opportunity to do her job. I'm stunned at this. It's kind of holding somebody hostage till you get an answer that you want to have. This is an important position. She is qualified. She's decent. We have voted for her before unanimously. And I just feel very bad for Gina McCarthy right now. And she's still being hung up here with threats. If I don't like the answer I get, I will, I won't, I might, filibuster, not. I would just urge my colleagues, put aside the filibuster. If you don't like The EPA, you obviously don't, although the American people do. If you look at the polls, it's one of the most respected agencies. They love it 70, 80%. But that's your right to vote no. But please, let's treat her well. And with that, we're going to go to the vote.
Madam Chair, can I briefly respond?
No, we are not going to do that. We are not. No,
Madam Chair,
we are not going to do that.
You directly responded
Yes,
to my
I
letter,
did,
and in
and I had
fact, you
every right
stated
to
some
do that.
things that are just untrue, and I'd like.
Well, then can
I'd
you
like to
hold your
respond.
remarks till after we vote? Because there are certain senators that must leave. If you would please, I will sit here for hours and listen to you. Believe me, I will. I have no problem doing it, but we want to move forward. I move the nomination be reported favorably to the Senate. Do I have a second? A second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no.
Roll call vote.
In the opinion of the chair, the
I
ayes
can ask
have
for a
it.
roll call vote on the nomination.
David, of course you can, and of course we will, and of course we want to. So let me get through this. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the nomination will be reported if there is a favorable vote as we do the roll call. So would you commence the roll call, please?
Carasso. No. Duvall. Aye. DeBozeman. No. McCarthy. Aye. Mr. Carper. Aye. Crago. Mrs. Fisher.
No by proxy.
Mrs. Gillibrand. Yes. Greenhoff. No. Mr. Lautenberg. Aye. Mr. Murphy. Aye. Mr. Sanders. Aye. Mr. Sessions.
No by proxy.
Mr. Udall. Aye. Mr. Vitter.
No.
Mr. Whitehouse. Yes. Mr. Wicker.
Why am I always last? No.
Madam Chairman.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, the ayes are 10, the nays are 8.
Would you repeat that louder, please? I can't hear you.
The yeas are 10, the nays are 8.
Thank you very much. And we will move forward. And now we will hear from Senator Vitter, who wishes to respond. And I just have to say, repeat that the yeas were 10, the nays were 8. The nomination is reported to the Senate, and I really appreciate the attendance of everybody who's here. Senator Vitter, your response.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just did want to respond with a few points. First of all, I want to underscore from the very beginning, you know this, Gina McCarthy knows this, EPA knows this, everybody knows this. From the very beginning, our key focus were these 5 transparency requests. So we're not asking for this EPA to change its policy on any fundamental EPA issue. We're asking for openness and transparency. 4 of these 5 requests are things that are clearly required under current law that we're trying to get out of them kicking and screaming. And 1 is very consistent with openness and transparency that they have the full capability and authority to do. And again, these are in the areas of email and FOIA policy, getting unredacted emails which are due to us, getting the underlying research data used to promulgate these major rules, having full economic analysis performed with regard to major rulemaking as required by law and executive order, and having openness and transparency to these sue and settle agreements. So that's the first point. We're not asking this EPA to change its policy and views. We're asking for openness and transparency as required by law. Secondly, you expressed shock and said you'd never seen this before. Well, in fact, you have seen this before, and you participated in it in 2003.
I never asked anyone 1,000 questions, David. Don't say what I did.
Okay. You did see this and participate in this in 2003 with regard to the nomination of Michael Levitt. And in fact, that markup was originally scheduled and did not happen because no Democrat on the committee participated, and that was postponed for 2 weeks. And in fact, in that situation, I think it's noteworthy that Michael Levitt wasn't a part of that current EPA. He was a complete outsider in contrast to this situation where obviously Gina McCarthy has a major position in this EPA and has had one for the last 3.5 years. So I think those are all very important points. And I would end by saying I think my letter is very positive, and I hold out a positive path forward so we can build on these beginnings of transparency, build on that, and have a positive outcome for the American people in terms of openness and transparency, and have that reflected in the nomination process as it proceeds from here. So thank you.
Thank you. I like positive.